Welcome back to our podcast on how religion gets made. You are looking at the third oldest river in the world, the French Broad River, which last September of 2024 flooded 16 feet. And it was amazing damage right where we're standing, but everything has been brought back. So we thought we'd bring you our next few podcasts from this delightful area. Welcome back, Chandler.
Mark, it's good to be here, outside.
Outside, yeah.
In a place that was less than a year ago completely underwater.
Yeah, it was.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It shows resiliency.
There you go. Welcome back, everybody. We are so glad you're back with us and hope that this is a good experience for you. If you find that this class is helping you out, please give us a good rating or find somebody you can share it with, and we'd be honored to have that recommendation from you. Up till now, we have explored the religious imagination and how we like to latch on to imaginary and unprovable ideas, and then make these ideas into core beliefs about how the universe operates. Said another way, the human brain visualizes or focuses on what philosophers call an a priori, that unprovable, that non-falsifiable ideals, like a certain kind of God. And then we imagine a meaning-making process to cultivate that a priori, that meaning-making God, into a very real religion with rituals and stories and inculcating young people into it. This is how religion begins. It's also how neuroses began, imaginary alternative lives began. Just to start a list, see class number 1 for a review.
So please keep in mind that we're not poo-pooing or dissing all a prioris. Just know that we're basing our very lives on something that is neither falsifiable nor provable. I do this, you do this, Mark does this. Let's just start the critical thinking awareness of what we're doing. Because like I say, you don't want to become someone's bitch.
So these a prioris, these imagined ideas we harbor as true, are our North Stars by which we steer. However, such ideas being both non-provable and non-falsifiable, well, all we want to ask is whether we actually want to place our ultimate trust in such things you can't prove. Our thesis is that when we are paired up with our a prioris, we can meet others likewise motivated, and then we can form communities, which is kind of cool. Our only question, are we pairing with the right or best a prioris that give us the best communities? Is the community we join the KKK or the AA?
And we all know about Maslow and his hierarchy and needs, and community is one of those needs. So, for example, does that community bring us health and happiness or stress? If you're in a group with unexamined hatred of other people as their a priori, will that get you to your spiritual still point or goal in our long searches for meaning?
We've also seen in the past classes some definitions of what religion is, as well as what all religions seem to do.
So they imagine or sense, capital S, something behind creation, a sense that is supported by mythic explanations, aka known as those creation stories we talked about. I think it was in episode 2.
Yeah. Every religion has a worldview that corresponds with and bolsters that imagined capital S something or God with creation stories, sacred text, rituals, symbols, ethics.
And then we find there's something, quote unquote, wrong with us that alienates us from that capital S something and ultimately from ourselves. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I was just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
That religion that diagnoses your spiritual issues provides the exact corresponding fix to what those issues are. The road or roads back to wholeness and restoration.
So again, what they call out on you as something wrong already has to match the fix. Okay, the medicine they provide has to fit exactly the illness they prescribe. Also, these religions, these a prioris, these religions provide a theodicy, or an explanation for evil. When one's divine, one's God is supposed to be all at once, all powerful, all loving, everywhere. One way we hear this commonly framed is this: how can a good God allow such gross evil to keep on happening?
And by the way, Mark, when people ask that very question, that exact same question, they may be on the way to changing their a prioris, their faith, their religion, their worldview, because there's been a massive breakdown in that worldview. It's like they're saying in a moment of clarity, I didn't sign up for this. What the hell? What am I doing?
Also known as critical thinking.
And not becoming someone's bitch. So next, community practice, right? Church, synagogue, temple, ashram, mosque. That is a community of like-minded or like-hearted folks who join together to make their a priori vision stronger. These communities are so necessary, like we said about Maslow and his hierarchy, so we don't live the lonely lives that we see more and more of. Plus, these communities help us frame their world morally. And they provide an analysis or explanation of how the world works versus how it's supposed to work. And we'll talk about that more later once we've got some more background on it.
Religions also provide us an imagined sense of the afterlife or afterlives. Heaven, hell, purgatory, nothing, soul expansion. Nobody's come back from death and told us what it's like. So we imagine. And by the way, we imagine heaven as the best possible thing that can happen to us, but on steroids.
So does that mean that hell is the worst thing or things that can happen to us, like prison or mental illness, but on steroids too?
Absolutely. We take what we know, add our religious steroids into the mix recipe, we put it in the oven and bake it, and it comes out looking like it's real.
Right. But in reality, it's not.
It's not. Yeah, that's how the imagination works. It takes a little tiny grain of sand from one beach and concludes that all the other sand that we may not have seen is the same color, same size, same texture. Today, we begin to conclude our introductory material, which we have been presenting in bite-sized pieces. Soon the classes will be a little bit longer and get into some of the meat and potatoes, or the celery and the broccoli if you're vegetarian, where we analyze with critical thinking our actual imagined gods, actual imagined creation myths or stories, ethics, rituals our imaginations say are somehow necessary. But today, we start to examine the things that all religions do. In short, a religion is a meaning-making story of how to live according to the best that we know, so that each religion will contain a view of the world, a theological story about how it came about and is to operate, and then it shows us all humans where we fit into all of it. Okay?
So let's be very, very clear. What almost every religion does not do is focus on the other than human world. Religions usually prioritize the human being and the human experience versus the vast entire cosmos. For example, and strangely, they leave out fruit flies, roaches, and all these meat sources that we eat. They leave out the very biotic ecosystems that grew us, sustain us, bring us to health, keep us alive.
Yeah. So we're up in the air, but we're not paying attention to the net.
Right.
Yeah, we imagine only human beings important. Only human beings are important enough to include. Most of the world that supports us just somehow is not that important. Only one named capital letter spirituality, Chinese Taoism, does this. Taoism honors the infinite number of fluencies in the universe, not just the earth, those infinite number of fluencies that we either don't care about or don't yet know about.
All right, so let me add real quick, Mark. Lots of unnamed spiritualities of indigenous faiths across the world do include the other than human, other than alive worlds. These provide what they call original instructions spiritual operating systems, to use a computer metaphor, on how things came to be and what kind of ethical lives we are to live as part of a great unity overall, everywhere. But most of the major religions don't worry about the yellow jackets, the roaches, the ants, the trees even, to their poverty, I might add.
So, let's look at what all religions do. Okay, each will offer a metaphysical worldview that includes a cosmology, a theology, and an anthropology. First, the cosmology. Then you'll be
That's a story map of the mind, or for the mind, I'm sorry, that explains all that is and all that came to be.
Okay. So you look up at the stars at night, the planets, you consider the universe, it's that kind of thing, and we have that place in that.
Yep.
Next, these religions offer a theology. That is a theory of a supreme being that is part of the cosmology, or at least the cause of that.
And then digging even a little bit deeper to that, the anthropology, which everybody's heard of, anthropology, the study of humanity. So religions give a working definition of what the human being is in all of our glory and in all of our weakness too.
Yeah, okay. If you're in the Jewish or Christian tradition, just look at Psalm chapter 8 for some advice there. So, I want to note again the letter C. Most organized religions, except for Taoism, focus only on the human being. Most religions are, unfortunately, human-centric, anthropomorphic. We like to talk about ourselves, see ourselves like everywhere, from constellations to selfies, even to our gods, which look like, act like, feel like, and get happy or angry or sad about the very things we look like, feel like, get angry about, or happy about, which is idolatry. Substituting or mistaking the created for the creator. But that's what uncritical thinking does. It ignores and denies its being ignorant in the first place. And then you become somebody's bitch. So Chandler.
Yeah.
Do this following slide.
All right,
for
cool.
us.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. So, things that all religions do. 2, a theory of salvation in some way, shape, or form. Deliverance or liberation for the human. Technical word is soteriology. It's a good old SAT word.
Yes.
$20 word.
Yeah.
So every religion says that there is something wrong with us, or that we have a tendency to stray. We are inherently flawed in some way, shape, or form. So how do we fix or transcend these tendencies? How can we achieve eternal peace and happiness? And hopefully this answers it for us. And what is the path to this quote-unquote promised land, whether it's in this life here or the next one or whatever happens after?
So the religion would give us a theory of our salvation and then provide the roadmap through sacred text or pictures or whatever it is. They give us a map of how to get there.
So each religion outlines their best imagined guess as to the path to this promised land or salvation, whether it is salvation here and now or somewhere else and somewhere later.
To do this, they have to identify through their imagined worldviews that something in us is considered by that religion wrong with us. Some deficit, some Achilles heel, or inborn structural defect that prevents us from being or becoming the completed human beings that we can become. There are religions that say we are born sinful and we cannot help it.
And there's religions that say that we weren't born with a congenital limp, to use a metaphor, but we develop our faults and we go down the moral ladder to hell even before we die, just as being humans on planet Earth.
Yeah, it's like we're born limping and then God blames us for using crutches. And then there's these religions that have never imagined sin, original sin, declaring that no one is born a hater, a racist, or violent. Instead, such religions say we have only forgotten, that F word, forgotten our true identity and lived under lowered moral ceilings only because we've forgotten our original golden self.
So that's saying that we knew it, we knew what was right and what we quote-unquote should be doing, and we either through situation or through decisions stopped doing it.
Yeah. All right. So, more things that all religions do. Morality, right conduct. They'll give us a sense of what to do at the right time, the ethics. How do we relate to other people? How do we relate to the society at large? Or how do we relate to this natural world, if we are to relate to this natural world?
What am I supposed to do? And then what am I never supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, for example, if America were a religion, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
If America were a religion, what would be its morality? Okay. What if football was a religion? What if soccer was a religion?
Yeah.
What if music was
What
a
would be
religion?
the chief commandment in your favorite football or basketball teams?
Right. What is the one thing that would drive?
Yeah. You buy their merch?
Right. Yeah.
Or go to the games?
Yep. Or
Talk about them all the time?
memorize their lineup.
Yeah.
Know the stats.
And that sounds like a religion to me.
It does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. Because, it's something, again, greater than yourself.
Yeah.
That is not you inherently, and it's something that you have to have, put forward effort
Yeah.
in order to be accepted into it.
Yeah. So, what do you think, Chandler? Are we always in need of some outside intervention?
There's my
think
word.
Yeah. Like we do with family members.
So yeah, I think we are. At least the way that I see it is it's we are not able to live to our fullest within whatever our religions are without something to help that. Now that's kind of, I guess that's a little confusing, but let's look at sobriety. Okay, let's just use that.
Yeah.
So, can you be sober? Yes. Can an alcoholic or an addict, can they be sober? Yes. But do they require something to be done to maintain that, to get to that end point of sobriety? So with religion, it's kind of the same thing. Let's just use Christianity. You're born into a Christian family.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you don't have to do anything?
Yeah.
No. It means that you have this guidebook of what to do in order to be saved, then when you die, go to heaven. So I think, yes, there's always an intervention on our part that we have to carry forward with in order to reach that end goal.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, folks, class, I don't want to tell you what to think or believe or practice. I do want you to think about this yourself and begin a conversation with yourself or your family or with others about what our human nature is. Okay? So, let's continue on. Let's continue what all religions tend to do.
All right. They have an ultimate destiny, right?
Say more.
It's okay. So of all things, of me, of you, of those people down there.
Ultimate, you mean after I die?
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay.
It's
All
the end of all things. All right. So look at a black hole,
Yeah.
right? And what's the center after after you pass that point? What's the center of the black hole? It's the singularity.
Yeah.
We're talking about the singularity of existence.
Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. So, and your religion, your a priors, will be glad to tell you all about this. Okay?
Yeah. Lots of opinions.
Yeah. Again, these are all outgrowths of our a prioris. How you begin a religion in that creation story has to have an ending that rhymes with the beginning. It has to complete what was begun, and they had to be consonant with each other.
So here's a thought that's kind of bounced around in my head a little bit. We're talking about imagination, right? And how a lot of religion and worldviews and beliefs and faith is imagined. It's something that we dream up, and then we try to live that out to get to whatever our imagined viewpoint is. So, think about an author. The more imaginative an author is, the more successful they are.
Yeah.
The more people want to read.
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. We can hope so.
By the way, I'm an author.
Yeah, in case you were wondering. But with religion too, we talk about poo-pooing on it. In order to not poo-poo on it, why don't we just look at all religions as, wow, that's imaginative.
Yeah.
Wow, that's creative.
Yeah.
If we can read books because we enjoy it because of how it makes us feel, because of how imaginative it is. Why can't we look at religion the same way?
And you don't read only novels.
Mm-mm.
You don't read only crime stories.
Nope. No. You read everything.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
A lot of people do.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. All right, class. We're going to close the screen for about 9 minutes and insert a brief 9-minute video called "A Brief History of the End of the World." That includes a sampling of the hundreds of times that folks have, always wrongly, predicted the end of the world as we know it. Every single one has been wrong. What would a critical thinker think now?
You can ask REM, Michael Stipe.
Yeah. We'll see you in 9 minutes.
Right.
The end is near. The end is near. These are the end times. You know, I'm not the only one saying this.
Many end-time signs that Jesus warned about are prevalent in the world today.
Why is that? It's because this is the end of the Gentiles. This is the prophecy that we have all been looking for.
10 signs that we need to pay attention to that point to the end times.
And endtimes.com is your premier source for cutting-edge end times analysis.
We are literally living in the end times. It really breaks my heart and saddens me to see how evil this world is becoming every single day.
All of them seem to want your email address, by the way. But yep, search up "We're in the End Times," and so many of these videos pop up. And yes, some of these videos are quite old. According to one poll, 4 out of 10 American adults believe that we are currently living in the end times. According to another poll, 83% of people living in Afghanistan said the end times would happen in their lifetime. According to yet another poll, 10% of people around the world think the world is probably going to end this year. Oh, that was actually a poll taken in 2012. The world, in fact, did not end in 2012. But remember that? Remember back in 2012 when a lot of people were freaking out about the world ending? There was even a movie that got in on the fun. A really crappy movie. Anyway, the 2012 phenomenon was when a bunch of people thought either world-ending or world-transforming events would happen on or around December 21st, 2012. The end date of a 5,126-year-long cycle described in an ancient Maya calendar. Yeah, that date came and went, and the end of the world did not, in fact, happen. But people have been saying the end of the world is near, or I should say, people have been saying the end of the world is near for humans for at least a couple thousand years. Here in the United States, it's often certain Christians who are the ones who won't stop talking about the end times, often paired with the return of Jesus Christ. But it's not just Christianity that has been all about apocalypticism or the belief that the end of the world could happen any day. No, 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 no. Other religions have got in on the fun too. Here's a brief history of the end of the world. There are experts and there are just con artists. Con artists convince us they have deep knowledge of a topic when they actually don't. Now, why would they do this? Well, to sell us something, of course. And yes, most people who have tried to convince us that they know exactly when the end of the world will be have proven to just be con artists. They were just trying to sell us something. One of the earliest and most famous descriptions of the end times can be found in the book of Revelation, the final book of the New Testament, and therefore the final book of the Christian Bible, the most sacred book in Christianity. Though they generally say it was written around the year 90, historians don't know exactly who wrote the book of Revelation. Some say it was this dude, John of Patmos. Regardless, it's still a pretty influential book today, and hundreds of millions of Christians around the world look to it as a guide and even prediction of the end of the world, like Montanus, who arguably started the world's first doomsday cult and regularly said the world would end any day now. Any day now? Any day now. Any day now. That was in the year 156. But I'm just getting started, buddy. A Christian bishop named Hilary of Poitiers said the end of the world would happen in the year 365. Well, 365 comes and goes, so he pushes back the date. A few years later, another Christian bishop named Martin of Tours predicted the world would end before the year 400. Nope. Meanwhile, these three dudes all predicted Jesus would return in the year 500, basing their predictions on the dimensions of Noah's Ark. Jesus did not return in 500. Jesus did not return in 500. Flash forward a few centuries later, and a Spanish monk named Beatus, or Beatus, got all bold and said that Jesus would return specifically on April 6th, 793. Dang, bold indeed. Well, April 6th, 793 came and went, and Jesus did not return. Beatus then revised the year to 800. Didn't give a specific date this time, but possibly never knew he was wrong about that too, since he died in 798. In defense of Beatus, Sextus Julius Africanus also predicted the world would end in 800, and Gregory of Tours said, the end of the world will happen sometime between 799 and 806. Nope. In 847, a woman named Theoda predicted the world would end that year, but was eventually forced to admit she made up her prediction to make some money. She was publicly flogged for making the prediction up. By that time, though, it was increasingly common for Christians to declare when the world was ending and Jesus was coming back soon. Eschatology, or the study of the end times, even became a legitimate thing. Sometimes weird things would just happen. They got a lot of people freaking out about the end of the world, like a big solar eclipse in Europe in 968, or the Black Death, or Halley's Comet appearing every 76 years or so. Hey, there's a whole list of dates predicted for apocalyptic events on Wikipedia. That's fun to check out on a Saturday night. Notable on that list? Some pretty big names, like Martin Luther, who predicted the end of the world would happen no later than the year 1600, and Christopher Columbus, who predicted the world would end in 1656, or 1658. He also predicted it might end in 1658. I don't know. By that time, the Roman Catholic Church said Christians should not predict specific times for the end of the world, okay? Oh, that didn't stop Christians from predicting the end of the world. Especially the ones who left the Catholic Church. Before you know it, entire Christian denominations formed believing the world would end on a certain date, like the Shakers, who predicted the world would end in 1792. Oh, and also in 1794. But it wasn't just Christian denominations. A preacher named Antonio Conselheiro, I think is how you pronounce his name, I could be wrong, convinced his 20,000 followers in Brazil that the world would end in 1900. Coincidentally, that same year, a group in Russia called, I'm not joking, the Brothers and Sisters of the Red Death predicted that the world would end on November 13th. And when that day came, November 13th, 1900, they decided to burn themselves to death on that day. But people kept on predicting. There are dozens of people who, in the following decades, predicted exactly when the world would end. And millions of people believed them. Like this dude, Herbert Armstrong, who said the world would end in 1936. And this self-described, quote, psychic, Jean Dixon, who said it would end on February 4th, 1962. After that didn't happen, she said the world would end in 2020. And it did. Just kidding. Kind of. And this dude, Jim Jones, yeah, you've probably heard of that guy, who said a nuclear holocaust would end the world in 1967. And this dude, Charles Manson, yeah, you've probably heard of that guy too, who predicted the world would end in 1969. Nice. Even in my lifetime, charismatic people kept making up end of the world dates, and their followers believed them. The Taiwanese preacher Han Ming Chen started a movement and predicted that not only would the world end on March 31st, 1998, but that God would be seen on Channel 18 all across North America. To prepare for this day, Han Ming Chen's followers moved to Garland, Texas, because it sounded like Godland. I'm not joking. Where they dressed in white, wore cowboy hats, and drove fancy cars. Influential preachers obsessed with the end times have only in recent years realized that perhaps they shouldn't predict the world will end on a specific date.
They're going to see him on that day that is yet future. Revelation 1:7 says, "Look, he's coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him.
Well, that's Billy Graham. Back in 1949, he predicted that the world would end within a year or two. Well, that didn't happen, but he went on to become one of the most successful preachers in human history after he realized it was silly predicting specific dates in which the world would end. But that still hasn't stopped others, like Ronnie Wineland, founder of the Church of God, preparing for the Kingdom of God. Despite going to prison for a while for tax evasion, he's still at it these days, talking about the end times on his YouTube channel. He predicted that Jesus would come back on June 9th, 2019. Jesus did not come back on June 9th, 2019. But we'll have to wait for other predictions to probably be wrong, like the Messiah Foundation International's prediction that the world would end in 2026, and Rasha Khalifa's prediction that the world would end in 2280.
Okay, Chad, we're back from the video.
All right. Things all religions do. Number 5, most important one that I think we're talking about for today is community.
Yeah.
You know, it's organized around common experiences and beliefs.
Okay. Every community will elect or call a leader, and it has a leadership structure to keep the movement going from one generation to the next, or maybe even expand it within a generation.
And there's activities that are affiliated with this, like worship, service projects, evangelism, instructing children. And let me just throw a word out there as we talk about a leader coming out and people having like-minded, and cult.
As in bad cult.
Bad cult.
Okay.
Yeah.
For you religious nerds, religion studies nerds, cult is a technical word for how a religion organizes itself. It doesn't have a bad meaning, but we have a bad meaning associated with the other way that we use cult, and that is any religion that you don't like.
Right.
That's a cult.
We can call it a cult.
Yeah.
Because we don't agree with it.
Yeah, that's right. Now, this community is one to which we become accountable to. We may give them our time, our money, our skills, but this community, and please hear me carefully, it has a major purpose. That community must give a pretty doggone good analysis of the world, including its good and its bad parts, and then provide an analysis to each member about both how the world works and show how it ought to work better. That community's obligation then is to give the world a moral frame, and then use the community time to help their folks deal and work with and change the world it has framed. Again, let me be clear. All communities, from KKK or MAGA to motorcycle clubs, Baptist, Methodist, Catholic, Orthodox, and more, to civil rights groups, human rights groups, NA, AA, other 12-step programs, each will give its imagined diagnoses of the world, and each will prescribe, based on its imagined assessment of the world, the fix, the solution, the way to live best in the world. And we submit. We each need a larger community with which to frame some ethical background to our lives that give us meaning. My communities of fellow meaning makers includes a Taoist reading club. I go to 2 Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien reading clubs. I go to 2 Christian communities. And my regular contact with my cool fellow employees at the Biltmore House, they're kind of a community too, and they give me this moral framework and a sense of accountability as well. How about you, Chandler?
So, I mean, you know, obviously the ones right there on the surface, AA, you know, to an extent NA, the recovery community as a whole. But then you also look, for me, it's like the community of parents with, you know, children on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very tight-knit community. Those people who are engaged in things that I enjoy, like there's a very tight-knit community for fly fishing. Like-minded, people believe the same things, and we do the same things.
Yeah.
Even our cul-de-sac is a community.
Yeah.
It's people who kind of want the same thing and think much along the same lines, and so we see eye to eye, and we create a community.
Okay. So you may think that Harley Davidsons are the best motorcycle ever.
Yep.
and then you discover somebody down the street with one, and you make a little friendship, and then you find somebody else, and pretty soon you got your little motorcycle club, and you all love Harley Davidsons, but not any kind else, right?
Of course not.
And you go rides, you exchange beers, whatever it is, you exchange meaning with each other.
Yep.
And that's how religions work in community.
And here's just a little food for thought that popped in my head a few minutes ago is, and maybe we'll talk about this as we move forward in the classes, but the loss of the inherent need for community in society.
Yeah.
And I use fraternities and sororities as an example for that. Back in the 50s and 60s, if you were quote unquote popular, or you were accepted, or you were in a group, you were Greek, you were in a fraternity, you were in a sorority in college. It was very well known. Now, many schools don't even have them because that community is not needed anymore.
Screens.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, every one of these a prioris that we've been mentioning is based on this unprovable, non-falsifiable ideal. But we use critical thinking to verify that these ways that we spend our one wild, precious life, whether it's on Harley Davidsons or in a church or in Taoism or whatever, we want to make sure that our one wild, precious life is worth it. Mm-hmm. So, Chandler, is this it? Is this an exhaustive list of what all religions do?
Yep. Yeah, we've solved it. We know it all. We're done. Take care, guys.
Sounds like an a priori to me.
Right? Yeah. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So, but let's just be clear. We both assume that religion is easy, something definable, easy to classify. However, when religion starts to fit into my neat little moral categories, there's a problem. That's how I used to be a fundamentalist, because I wanted to search for simple solutions to complex issues.
So, here's the point. When we say religion, we usually mean our community, our ethic, our religion, and even our country's religion, or my race's religion. And so leave out billions of people. We are definitely missing something. Additionally, the texts of every major faith today have really outdated ideas, which don't really make sense in this day and age. Like sanctioned murdering, ethnic cleansing, that various genders are fixed and come with fixed roles. This is the only way to be.
Yeah. And then there are these parts of religious texts that never get read anymore, but they're there. But we never read them. Ever read Leviticus lately?
Right. Well, some Christians, for instance, actually think that the Old Testament is completely irrelevant. They just think it doesn't even matter. It's not worth reading, for example. If that stays uncorrected, it can lead to the silencing of Hebrew readers and speakers, which actually did lead a violent revival of centuries of hatred to Jewish people. I'm talking about, as we all know, the Nazi Jewish persecution. An ethnic cleansing called, what was that thing called? Is the Holocaust.
Yeah. All based on a faulty a priori. So this is really important. So if you ever see a New Testament without an Old Testament, or some group handing out just a New Testament, that's heresy. Mm-hmm. It's already called a heresy called Marcionism. You see, when or if you slowly silence a group of people, read them out of your scripture, when or if you slowly silence a group of people, they become much more easy to take rights away from, and we can put them at a disadvantage in society. And eventually, like native peoples around the world and Jews throughout their history, they become easier to kill. I'll never forget how once upon a time in a church, I was just teaching world religions, and I hazarded the idea that just the very phrase or idea of world religions is a carry-all concept that Christians, white Christians especially, made up to differentiate their faith from others. Their faith, they had faith. Everybody else had religion. Ooh. People did not like it, by the way.
Sure.
Another idea, is religion actually belief, or is it more practice? You can answer yes and go your merry way. But there's an example here. In the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, 7. I urge you to read it before too long. There's 3 chapters there, and all Jesus is doing is saying, do this, do that, do this. Love enemies, turn the other cheek. It says what you need to do. It's all ethics. 300 years later, the first Christian creed, the Nicene Creed, says the exact opposite. What you believe is all about it. It's all about what you believe. There's not a single word about what you must do. So, which do you prioritize?
So there's tons of religions, tons of religious people, for whom action is more important than belief. It's what we do, not what we think or what we feel. And vice versa. Belief is more important than actions. Well, let your critical thinking, non-bitch mind chew on that. Because meanwhile, we gotta go.
Yeah.
We got too much to do.
I think we've done enough today.
Yeah.
We've done a lot. We've touched on the religious imagination, some definitions of religion, and things that most religions do. Next time, we'll finish up this with a short class on why people turn to religion. So your homework, why are you religious? Why do you stay religious? Is it more belief or practice? So thanks, Chandler. Thanks for being in our class, everybody. If you like this class, please tell someone. If not, tell me. My email's in the show notes.
Don't forget, don't become someone's bitch.
Life is way too short. Bye now.
See ya.